Dear patrons, it feels like yesterday that I was introducing our next company, and that was 6 months ago. I've been saying this for years now that some of the best investments I've made have been in my own backyard. If you've been in small cap long enough, then you know of Capstone Turbine, ticker CPST. The big question is, are you following it as closely as we are? After nearly tripling in share price since first zooming with us back in October, the stock has settled here in the $8 to $10 range. Capstone Turbine is the world's leading producer of highly efficient, low emission, and resilient microturbine engine systems. The company makes electricity and thermal energy cleanly, with about 1/10 of the emissions of internal combustion engines and virtually zero downtime. Think about it this way: clean, portable power when you can't get any. The company has been very busy recently, signing multiple deals all over the world, and signed up the first industrial microturbine installation in Saudi Arabia at the Ma'adem Aluminum. I just wanted to mention that so you guys all know how well I can pronounce my Arabic names. Joining us on the call today, it is my honor and privilege to welcome Mr. Darren Jamison, the President and CEO of Capstone, and CFO, Mr. Eric Henkin. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. The floor is now yours.
Thank you, Chris, and it's a great introduction. You didn't leave me much thunder, but no, thank you. Pleasure to be here. Darren Jamison, CEO, Capstone Turbine Corporation, and Eric Henkin, CFO. I think the really big point here is energy's changing, and I picked a quote from John F. Kennedy. I've been using this for a while, but it says basically, change is the law of life, and those who only look at the past or the present are certain to miss the future. And the future of energy looks very different. And if you think it looks like the past, then you haven't been paying attention. Obviously, we've got a new president. Mr. Biden's in office. He rejoined the Paris Climate Agreement, as most of the free world has done. You're seeing more and more companies, more and more countries come out with initiatives for improving their carbon footprint, whether it's Amazon, which I just saw an ad this morning, looking to get to carbon neutral by 2040. California talking about their goals, as well as getting rid of internal combustion engines. If you just look at some of the stats that are out there, Gen Z makes up 1/3 of the population, and Gen Zers are willing to pay 50 to 100% more for sustainable products. That's 50 to 100% more for sustainable products. Think about that. 73% of the consumers said in a recent survey that they will change their behavior to lower the impact on the environment. That's obviously much more than the Gen Zers. Sustainability is the second highest reason for brand loyalty. So if you're Marriott, if you're Mohawk Carpet and Tile is one of our key customers, if you're a brewery, whatever you may be, your brand is everything. And keeping your customers and going to get more customers is what it's all about to grow your business. And if you don't have loyalty in your brand because you're not green and you're not seen as a sustainable company, it's going to be very hard for you to grow your business going forward. 2 out of 3 people across all age groups, not just Gen Zers, say sustainability is taken into mind when they consider purchasing decisions. Again, so it's forefront in people's mind. Half the people willing in the survey are saying they'll pay more for a green product. 70% said sustainability is at least somewhat important. And I think all these things have changed over the last several years, and they're going to continue to change. Sustainability, green products, energy efficiency is going to be more at the forefront of customers, consumers, and companies. And Capstone is here to make that a reality for folks. More importantly, we're not just a product company. We're a energy as a service company. We're moving into more of a solution company. We're here for the long term for our customers, and I'll talk more about that. I actually think the COVID-19 pandemic was good for Capstone in many ways. It actually highlighted man's impact on the planet. And so we saw clean canals or clean water in Venice. We saw clear skies in Southern California for the first time in 50 years. We saw wildlife returning to areas that hadn't been there for years. I think people realize man's impact on the planet and how nice it can be when we remove some of that harmful emissions. And so I think that's actually been positive for us. We're seeing our business going in the right direction, and we actually just finished at the end of March as our year end, a very nice year, especially considering the COVID environment we've been working in. So we track every year how much carbon we save our customers and how much money we save our customers. I'm a firm believer that being green is nice and it's great and we should all do it, but making green makes being green sustainable. And so we need both shades of green or 2 colors of green. And so through the last 2 years, we've saved our customers 718,000 tons of carbon and over $500 million. Coming up on Earth Day was typically when we announce our annual savings. We'll do it again this year. I fully expect to be over 1 million tons of carbon saved the last 3 years, and we should be getting close to $750 million in financial savings. think about the fact that Capstone is less than $100 million company. In the last 3 years, we've saved customers $750 million, and let that sink in a little bit, and over 1 million tons of carbon. This plant you see here on the cover and then also pictured here is Mohawk Carpet and Tile. This is one of our new customers. Mohawk is one of the largest tile and carpet companies in the world. This is 5 megawatts of Capstone power, not only creating electricity in Tennessee for this plant, but all the thermal energy from the microturbines goes into a single exhaust system and goes into this building. And we are essentially direct drying or like a kiln cooking the tile. So this is lowering their carbon footprint and saving their money, as well as giving them resiliency. If they were to lose local power, they'd still have 5 megawatts of electricity, on-site energy. We've seen recently in Texas how important having on-site generation can be. All of our units continue to run in the Texas area through the ice storm and the outage. As long as they have fuel and as long as they have air, they will continue to operate and provide electricity for our customers. So resiliency is becoming more important, green is becoming more important, and saving money has always been important. I won't spend a lot of time on the technical side of the product, but essentially we put different fuels in and you get out electricity and thermal energy. Pretty simple. Unlike fuel cells, they're probably our closest competitor. Fuel cells, you put fuel in and you get electricity out, you don't get thermal energy. So fuel cells do better with customers that have high electric loads and little or no thermal loads. We do better with energy dense customers, customers that have heating and cooling loads as well as electrical loads. So we're much better for hospitals, for industrial manufacturers, for institutions, plastic companies, manufacturing, anybody who's got, heavy thermal loads. I mean, hotels are great examples. Hotels need electricity 24/7, 365, but they need heat for space heating. They need heat for the pool, heat for the laundry, heat for the showers, heat for the kitchen. And they also use, obviously, cooling in the summer if they're in a warmer climate. So definitely great environment for us. We put fuel in, we get electricity out at about 33%. That's about the same as what you get from your local utility. So not a huge benefit there, but the thermal energy is a really real benefit. We see our total system efficiency get to 85% on hot water or chilled water, and as high as 95% on steam and 90% on direct drying. So that extra efficiency from the thermal energy is what drives the importance of our product. It also makes us higher efficiency than fuel cells at about 1/3 the price. And so again, fuel cells do great for box stores, Walmarts, things that don't have a lot of cooling or heating loads or thermal loads, but have just electric only loads. And so our basic customers is growing. We're up to over 10,000 systems worldwide in 73 countries. And if you look at our press releases, we're putting out almost weekly some new customer that's trying the technology, which is excellent. Advantage of the technology, low emissions. We're very similar to fuel cell emissions. We're about 1/10 of an internal combustion engine, as Chris said. I think that's without after treatment. If we wanted to put some sort of after treatment on the machine, we could get even lower. But we meet the lowest emission standards worldwide, including California, on everything from natural gas, biogas, diesel, different fuel types. Patented air bearing technology. We have 112 patents. That's why you don't see many other presentations from microturbine-based companies, because we basically blocked everybody in the industry. 112 patents. Probably the most important one is our air bearing. Why it's important is because it allows us to have one moving part, no lube oil, no grease, no antifreeze. Not having any of these fluids and these working fluids, obviously that's environmentally nice, not to have 55 gallons of lube oil in your machine, but more importantly, maintenance. So we do little to no maintenance every year. We change air cleaners at about 24 months to 30 months. We change injectors, and at 5 to 6 years, we change the power head. So no cell stacks. We make good money on our machines, on our aftermarket. We'll talk more about energy as a service and how important that is. Very predictable from a cost of maintenance standpoint, very reliable from an uptime standpoint. We are inverter based, just like wind and solar. The nice thing about that is we've never been turned down for a utility interconnect permit anywhere in the world. And it's very easy for us to connect with other sources. And so as more customers are moving to microgrids, we're pairing our machines with battery storage, whether it's Tesla batteries or Core, or whatever batteries we may be working with. Obviously, solar panels are very frequent with our machines, as well as wind turbines as well. So if like Sierra Nevada up in Chica, California has 2 megawatts of PV, photovoltaic. It's got 2 megawatts of Capstone energy efficient microturbines and 1 megawatt of Tesla batteries. And so that 5 megawatt installation, we're about 70% of the energy they consume electrically and thermally. we're pushing 90% total system efficiency. So we're running 24/7, 365. In that case, we're not running on natural gas, we're running on biogas. We're running on the gas that they can create with the organic material left over from the brewing process. So it's almost a complete closed loop cycle where they brew beer, have organic material left. We get that organic material turned into biogas, run it in the microturbine, create electricity for the process and heat for the process, and then keep going, rinse and repeat. High power density. The nice thing about that, our machines turn at 96,000 RPM with a smaller frame and 63,000 RPM at the larger frame. So our, size per horsepower or size to weight is much superior than the older technologies like internal combustion engines. If you look at the right-hand corner of this picture, that is a megawatt power plant. It's actually down in Mexico for an automotive manufacturer. But that's a complete megawatt power plant in the box. That's electricity, that's heat, that's controls, that's all the makeup systems. That's the entire thing at a 40-foot by 8-foot footprint. So very small, lightweight, easy to install, even if it's at the 56th floor of One Vanderbilt in New York or in the Hudson Yards Towers. We can go in high-rise office buildings. We can go next to buildings. We can go in parking lots. We can go in basements. And that ease of maintenance and installation is very, very important. Fuel availability. That's a changing story for us. The company was founded on an automotive platform, so actually on diesel and biodiesel platform. We migrated to natural gas over the years, primarily in the oil and gas space back in the 2015, 2016 timeframe. Then we moved more to CHP, energy efficiency, still on natural gas. But today we're doing a lot more renewable natural gas, a lot more biogas, a lot of propane, a lot of butane. And then we've got a hydrogen program that we are just wading into. We're about 10% hydrogen today blend with natural gas with a target to move up to 20 to 30% in the next 12 months. And eventually we're going to go to 100% hydrogen, which I'll talk about. And so our goal is not to pick fuel winners. Our goal is to pick customers and use whatever fuel they have that's most economic environmental benefit for them. Free clean waste heat. Because we have no lube oil, because we have no jacket water, all of our thermal energy goes into that exhaust stream. And so unlike your car where you're losing heat off the engine itself, when it radiates off the engine, it goes into the lube oil, it goes into your radiator and your jacket water, and a small portion goes into your exhaust pipe. All of our thermal energy goes into our exhaust. We put a thermal blanket around the microturbine, which is an annular blanket that holds in the heat, and then there's no lube oil or antifreeze to carry the heat away. So all that heat's going into the thermal side of the machine, which is very, very efficient for us and helps us get more out of the machine and higher efficiency levels. All of our machines are meant to be remotely monitored. Almost all of them are sold in arrays of multiple machines. You can see the picture here is 5 machines in one box, but often we'll see anywhere from 3 to 25 microturbines at one installation. This gives us more operational flexibility, more built-in redundancy. We can do maintenance on one machine at a time and always have the highest levels of output and keep the customer making money and saving carbon. So very scalable. Great for green building, great for decarbonizing the oil patch, great for running on associated gas you get from oil to reduce flaring, great for renewables, landfills, wastewater treatment plants, cow manure, chicken manure, pig manure, great for Caribbean, running on propane or butane or LNG. We're moving into the marine space, so great applications worldwide and looking to really scale the business in the next couple of years. If we look at the growth catalysts for us, besides COVID, virtually everything is going in the right direction. Paris Climate Accord globally is good for us as we see green building standards, energy efficiency standards, lowering emission standards worldwide. As every country tries to figure out how they're going to meet the Paris Climate Accord. Mr. Biden signing that, one of the first things he did when he got into office, is great for the U.S. Low-cost natural gas is a great, clean, cheap input fuel and has been driving our sales for years. Microgrid adoption, the more folks that move from just solar PV and want to add battery storage and firm generation is great for us. And we do well in that space and continue to do well. Focus on reducing costs. It's a global economy. Everybody wants to lower their costs. Many customers don't even realize if they look at their electricity and their thermal energy and their backup power and their actual overall energy spend is 3, 4, 5, 5th spend on the list. They don't really look at it that way, but if they actually look at their energy spend holistically, it's much bigger than they think it is. New engine emissions. We know Volkswagen recently got in trouble for cheating on emissions. Other truck companies and car companies have done it in the past. Basically, you're going to see governments regulate out internal combustion engines. It's happening here in California. It's going to happen around the world. Another 10 to 20 years, you're not going to see many internal combustion engines being manufactured. And so that's good for us. The lower emission standards go, the happier we are. Green building, I mentioned One Vanderbilt, FMC Tower in Philadelphia, the Hudson Yards projects. Any place we see REITs doing green projects, green building, trying to get LEED certification, the higher levels, the better. That's all good for us. We do very well in that space. Unfortunately, severe weather also drives our business. We saw a huge uptick in our New York business with Superstorm Sandy. We're seeing a lot of interest in California because of the wildfires. We're now seeing interest out of Texas because of the ice storm. People lose power for a significant period of time. It makes them look at other solutions like ours, which are on-site distributed generation, that would help them through those issues to keep running and keep mission critical operations going. Electrification, we're doing projects. Chris mentioned the Middle East. We're doing them in India. We're doing them in Africa, a little bit in China, Korea, areas where there's either very weak grids or very unreliable grids or even no grid. And so electrification for us is a great opportunity to put our product out there in a decentralized application. And that'll only continue to grow, again, coupled typically with battery storage and some PV. Gas flaring regulations, if everybody would ban associated gas worldwide, that would be a huge boon for us, but I think we're heading that direction. We're seeing oil and gas companies talk about ESG, talk about decarbonizing the oil patch, being carbon neutral in some period of time. So we're seeing more and more interest in oil and gas customers moving away from diesel generators, moving away from gas flaring, and moving to our product, which can run on associated gas and create energy on site to ultra low emissions without using that flare gas for global warming. Crude oil prices, I have that as neutral right now. We'll probably raise that here shortly. We'd like to see oil prices over $50 a barrel for a sustained period of time. It has been over $50 a barrel for what's coming on to a sustained period of time. We're starting to see bigger uptick in our oil and gas customer quotation activity. We think that especially the back half of this year, we could see some nice orders out of the oil and gas industry worldwide, as well as our rental fleet, which is over half of our rental fleet is out for oil and gas customers like Shell. So the big story for Capstone, we've been through some trials and tribulations. We've been following the story. We've been to EBITDA positive for 2 quarters in a row, and then we had a bad part from a vendor, which set us back for almost 2 years. We got back to EBITDA positive in June of this last year in the middle of COVID. The next quarter was cash flow positive, and the third quarter we put up the largest revenue in 6 quarters. And so, like I said, COVID has been fairly reasonable for us. We managed the business very well. We've managed costs. We've been hitting our EBITDA targets. Our goal is to improve EBITDA $10 million year over year and get down to about $3.5 to $4 million in EBITDA loss for the year, which we'll announce here shortly how we did on that. But definitely, we've been very focused on that all year long. So the next phase of our development really is growth. We need to kind of get that growth engine going again. We've got a great foundation, a great product. We're past the parts issue we had. The product's running very well in the field. We've got a balance sheet. If you look at where we were a year ago, balance sheet wise, where we are today, I'll show you the numbers, but it's pretty remarkable without horrible dilution like a lot of other folks in our space. And so this slide is probably the most important. It's the 6 elements we're using to grow our revenue. I'll show you how our gross bookings have done recently and the output of this new plan. But the biggest issue is our new direct sales team. We've always gone through distribution for the last, call it 13, 14 years. Our distribution channel is fairly mature now. In fact, they pay us 3% subscription fee of their revenues for the prior year for marketing and branding efforts and other things that we're doing. So more importantly, adding these direct sales organization to really help take the singles and doubles that our distributors have been hitting and turn them into home runs and grand slams. And so taking the Mohawk carpets, taking Pepsi, taking Marriott's, taking these big customers who, DHL, who have 1, 2, or even 5 installations, how do we turn that into 25 to 100 installations? And that's the goal of the direct sales team, which is really strategic partnerships, growing the rental fleet and OEMs. So that team's been put in place right as COVID hit. I've not met one member of the team in person, all just via Zoom. Very excited though to get vaccinated and get that team really on the up in the air, wheels up, and seeing customers and really see what they can do. So that should drive increased revenue for us. Also, when we're doing direct sales, we'll be adding other ancillary components, not just the microturbines, which will give us more dollars per sale than selling through the distribution channel. So that'll be helpful for us. New geographic distribution partners. If you look at our recent press releases, we've had Eastern Europe, we've had Africa, we've had the Middle East. Definitely, moving around the globe, expanding into more areas, and we've made modifications to the machines to do well in areas like the Middle East and Africa. New digital marketing. Since we couldn't get on an airplane for a year, we really focused on our digital marketing. So if you're not following us on social media, you should. We're putting out, written case studies, video case studies, testimonials. We've got a lot of work we're doing around an IndyCar branding strategy, which is hashtag shift to green. You can go to hashtag shiftgreen.com and take our energy boomer or zoomer quiz and be entered into a drawing to win a diecast car. But really trying to raise awareness around green energy and all the different ways it makes sense to save money and save carbon. New targeting pricing programs. As we move from those singles and doubles into grand slams, we're going to need for more creative pricing for these national and key accounts. Our goal is to give all of them significant carbon savings and a 5-year payback. New renewable natural gas and hydrogen product. As I said before, we're at 10% blend today. Our goal is to get to 20 or 30% by the end of the year, and then move into 100% hydrogen development phase. And we'll talk more about that in a minute, but I think hydrogen, it's really important that we monitor how quickly that market develops and make sure we're at the right place strategically and competitively at the right time. And then I mentioned we had a bad part from a vendor. Unfortunately, right as we got to EBITDA positive a couple of years ago, we've now settled that case with the vendor. We've got a new vendor that's building a perfect part or close to it. And we got $5 million settlement to remediate the parts that are still out in the field. And so very excited to put that chapter of our life behind us. I won't go through too much on the results side because they're fairly stale. As I said, we're a March year end, and we pre-announced some results for March, but not the full earnings, which will be in June. But you can see right here the gross bookings, which this is important for growth. This is product bookings. You can see Q4 of the prior year wasn't bad, and that was March of 2021. And then you can see as we got into COVID, what happened. But bookings have bounced back nicely in Q2 and Q3 and Q4, which is our March of this year, up to 12.7. So definitely seeing a rebound of the business, and we're seeing the impact of that direct sales organization. As COVID continues to subside and more countries open up and more, a lot of our customers are hospitals, their hotels or folks have been, extremely impacted by COVID. So as their business returns, our business should return as well and continue to grow. I won't go through the financials because they're fairly old, but I do want to look at the balance sheet here. If you look at where we were March 31st, 2020, just as COVID was hitting, we had 15 million in cash. 9 million of that was restricted. So nothing like being a CEO with $6 million of free cash staring down a global pandemic. Not a good time. We kind of, fast forward a year, we've got 49.5 million in cash with 9 million restricted. Much better place to be, again, without terrible dilution. We refinanced our Goldman note from 30 million to 50 million. We did do a 14.5 million off the ATM in January, all pretty much in 1 week at higher prices than we have today. And then that $5 million settlement. More importantly, we really manage our inventories. Our inventory turns went from less than 3 to close to 6. So we took almost $10 million off our balance sheet. We really focused on receivables. We tightened the expenses in the business and just overall very tight working capital management. And so very proud to be having gone from 15 million to 49 million in cash in 1 year period during a pandemic without terrible dilution. So I'll talk quickly about the energy as a service business because that's really one of our most important parts of our business. It really is the foundation from which we'll grow this business. Our goal is to get to 50% margin. And so energy as a service for us is our ad hoc spare part sales for customers not under service contracts, which are north of 50% margin today. Our factory protection plan service contracts are below 50% margin because of the parts issue, but as that gets repealed and pulled back, we'll see margin rates up to 50% and higher. We've got a new long-term rental system program with funding by Goldman Sachs. And so as that business becomes a larger part of our business, that's a very high margin, call it 70% margin business for us, recurring revenue. I mentioned our distributor support fee. That's 3% of trailing 12-month revenue paid to us in like a subscription fee on an annual basis. That's 100% margin. And again, we use that for our IndyCar sponsorship, for our branding, our digital marketing, for training, for customer engagement, B2B events. And so as we grow the top line business, that distributor support fee will grow, and we'll spend more money on the B2B events and training and those kind of things. And so that's obviously very positive for us. And then some small other service revenue. So as this business is about half of our revenue today, as this continues to grow up to 10 million and beyond, at a 50% margin, that will essentially cover our OPEX or most of our OPEX. And so if our reoccurring EAAS business covers all of our operating expenses, then any product sales go straight to the bottom line, which is where we want to be as a business. And so I know a lot of other clean tech companies have sexier top line revenues, but from a bottom line EBITDA standpoint, we stand above all of them, that we actually have a business that can be profitable in the near term, generate cash in the near term. I'll spend 2 minutes on hydrogen, then open up some questions. I mentioned before, we've got a hydrogen blend today, but we've patented an injector to take us to 100% hydrogen. We're working with the U.S. Department of Energy now and Argonne National Labs. We're actually running at 70% hydrogen, 30% natural gas in a lab environment. This is going to continue to be a focus. And again, how fast we develop hydrogen will depend on the market. And so if the market can generate, green hydrogen at a low price or using electrolyzer, then store that hydrogen, then that's a great way for us to operate on site. Hydrogen in pipeline form is going to be, further away, but for distributed hydrogen behind the meter at customer sites, we think can be closer. We've already got our first unit running on hydrogen in Australia. We've got several more quotes and opportunities out there, and the interest for hydrogen is growing exponentially. So something I was frankly somewhat critical of or skeptical of, 3 years ago or even 5 years ago, I'm quickly changing my mind as more and more countries and companies show interest in hydrogen. With that, I will open it up for questions.
Darren, thank you so much for the presentation. Just to recap for everyone, if you want to ask a question to Capstone Management, you can either use the Q&A app on Zoom, or you can email me at chris@ldmicro.com. So let me know when you are ready, my man, and we will go through these because we have quite a few.
Let's do it.
Okay. So has there been any immediate impact to Capstone with the Biden administration now focused on clean energy and infrastructure? And then the second question is, where are you seeing the biggest immediate change?
Yeah, I think the biggest impact's really been more in share price. I think we saw a boost in our share price. It went to almost $15 a share. We started the year, a year ago, fiscal year, at $1. As you said today, we're in the $8 to $10 range. So I think definitely the Biden interest in green energy infrastructure has made more investors look at the space. From a actual, purchase order standpoint, I think it's, there's no new infrastructure out there yet that's in place, but I think it's really raising awareness. And so for us, our message to customers is don't wait for governments to tell you what to do. Take energy in your own hands. We can work with most customers today that have a good thermal load and electrical load, save them money, typically with a 5-year payback, hopefully or less, and save the environment. So why wait for somebody to tell you or legislate you to do something? Let's go do it right now. And so I think that, as he puts the infrastructure plan in place, that's going to be helpful. Anything around green building, energy efficiency, hydrogen is all good for us. Renewables is good for us. But I don't think it matters. I think customers need to do the right thing. They need to save money. They need to save carbon. They need to take the power into their own hands.
In the past 12 months, how much of your business has come from existing customers versus new clients?
So that's one of the challenges we've had, is that with the issue we have with the bad part, we saw very little repeat customers. And so a lot of those customers, were frustrated with the part failure we're having and our ability to remediate, fix it as quickly as possible. So we're seeing repeat customers now that we've got a new vendor for that part. But I'd say over the last 12 to 24 months, we have not seen a lot of repeat customers. And so those customers are loyal and they're happy with the product once we get it working right. So that's one of the things I try to explain to people is our revenue year over year is fairly close to flat. That's with the pandemic and a parts issue. You take the pandemic and the parts issue away, you're going to see much higher revenue growth. And I think that's borne out in our bookings the last 4 quarters.
Darren, I totally know that this is a sore subject, and I don't want to kind of, put my thumb on the pressure point. So I'm going to go through these questions in regards to this. You guys won a settlement back in February for the amount of $5 million. Have you disclosed the specific details on the settlement? and whether it is a one-time cash payment?
Yeah, no, we have. If you look at the pre-announcement, we talked about the settlement there, and obviously we did a press release when we got the settlement. It is a one-time payment. We are going to put a reserve in place, which we talked about in that press release, in similar size to get whatever parts are still out in the field. Hopefully, we won't spend all of that reserve, but I think it's the prudent thing to do. So the good news is we're probably 3/4 away from never talking about this again.
Exactly.
The vendor that we had was a 20-year vendor who unfortunately got a new CEO and tried to save money by cheapening our part, not telling us. And we went from a 2 or 3% failure rate to a 38% failure rate, just devastating. And so the company is very small. And for us to get a $5 million settlement, was probably 25% of the revenue. I mean, this is a pretty big settlement for a pretty small company. Fortunately, their insurance kicked in a little bit as well. So we're happy with the settlement. We're happy to have the money to get all of our customers' machines up to the highest level of output and put this chapter behind us. And essentially, is nothing you can do if somebody makes really poor judgments and doesn't tell you about it. It's really challenging for us, the business, and disappointing again for a trusted supplier that we've worked with for 20 years.
Look, and I promise that this will be my last question on this subject, but how much of, and trust me, I did a couple of things at LD Micro that last year that I regret and I'll never do again. But in this case, it wasn't us, it was somebody else. How
Yep.
much of this damage, and this is my final question on this, how much of the damage is irreparable? As in, there were clients that got hit so hard where it's like, it doesn't matter what we do for them in terms of cost savings, in terms of future discounts, that we will not be able to get back as clients.
As we sit here today, not one client has taken a machine out of service. Not one client has sued us or our distributors. So we worked really hard to keep units running, keep customers happy. In some cases, if we had to discount, the service contract for them, we would do that. But I think the clients have been very, appreciative, frankly, that we told them that the issue we're having, and we told them how quickly, we're trying to remediate it. And again, it's essentially fraud from a vendor, to be blunt. And I think they understand that we took it seriously and that we're partners. We signed service contracts anywhere from 5 years to 20 years. And so the reality is the damage to the customer was minimal. The damage was really to us in the margin on the service contracts. But it's definitely challenging to get repeat orders or big rollouts with customers when you're having a problem like this. So we think when you pull back the pandemic, you strip away the parts issue we've had, and then you add the direct sales organization, we've never been more excited about the business for the next couple of years.
Understood. And then finally, on the settlement side, I thought this was a good question. How is it going to be taxed?
I don't think there's any tax implications on it. No, we had some legal expenses, obviously, but there's no tax issues.
Okay. What percentage of your sales have historically been international? And do you see it becoming a bigger part of your business over the next 3 years?
Our sales have modulated every quarter depending on orders and where they are. I'd say today we're about 50% international. I think we're going to see growth in both U.S. and international. I would say from a COVID perspective, we still see more impact internationally than we do in the U.S. If you look at most of Europe, they're behind us from a COVID standpoint. France has shut back down again. Germany is probably the best shape in Europe, but Spain is not doing well. The UK is okay. If you look at, Brazil is a mess. Colombia is not doing very well. Mexico's shut down multiple times. So I think we're still seeing a lag in business internationally because of COVID, but hopefully by the middle of the summer that'll be over. But I think we've got huge markets in India that we're just starting to tap. We don't talk a lot about it, but most of our units have been going to the Indian National Oil and Gas Company, running on associated gas. We've got nice projects going in both CHP and oil and gas in Australia. We just did a water project for a water company in Fiji, not to be named. We've done projects in Japan and Korea. So I think we definitely, in the Middle East, we've got huge upside in the Middle East. They actually are caring about emissions and associated gas. So I think we're going to see growth in both markets. I think it's always going to be around 60-40, 50-50, because I think, both US and abroad are going to grow at kind of similar rates.
On the installation side, is it a team at Capstone Turbine that does everything, or is that outsourced to other contractors and organizations?
Yeah, so one of the things we've done different than other companies, we built a distributor network. Like, Caterpillar's distributor network is 100 years old. Cummins, if you look at Siemens, a lot of the big industrial companies have gone to two-step distribution. We did the same thing. I think, again, we're playing the long game more than the short game. So I could quadruple my, shipments to units and not add hardly any people to the company. Our leverage ability is unbelievable. And so even though I'm selling directly with my direct sales force, I'm not installing the machines myself. I'm not maintaining the machines, commissioning the machines. All that's being done by our distributor network or kind of network partners. And so we can leverage this business incredibly without adding additional cost. And so that's really the advantage for us. And so our goal is to do whatever the customer needs. Some customers have their own contractors that they work with routinely, in which case we're just providing product and kind of installation designs. Other contractors want a complete turnkey solution from one vendor, which we can do with either a partner or our obviously local distributor can do that. We work with companies like Ameresco's and ESCO companies all around the world. And so, basically we don't take that risk on unless the customer absolutely, requires it. But even if we do, we're going to use partners. And so, again, on the service contract side, I've got, $80+ million of service backlog. I have, zero mechanics, zero technicians, zero tools, zero trucks. All that's being done by my channel.
So let's switch gears and talk about Salesforce for a moment. How has it changed for you guys post-COVID? When do you think that you're going to start kicking on physical doors again? And how big an impact has that been in terms of potential customers, just not being able to see them in the physical form?
Oh, it's huge. I mean, we can't sell a microturbine. It's not a candy bar, right? It's not an impulse item at the grocery store. It's a industrial piece of equipment that's paired up with other equipment, other energy sources. So we have to walk job sites. We have to see where we're physically going to install it. We got to figure out how to install it mechanically and electrically, where we're going to pour a pad. Noise issues, obviously building permits, all those sort of things. So not having access to customer sites or limited access to customer sites is definitely challenging. We need to sit down with customers in a consultative sale and understand, what they value more. Is it cost savings? Is it resiliency? Is it carbon footprint reduction? And doing that via Zoom is hard. And so definitely, again, as I said a couple minutes ago, we feel very good about, growing the business in this current fiscal year. We feel really good about the year after. I think that the new direct sales organization, and once we're 100% out of COVID, we think we're going to see a real uptick in our business. And so we're excited about that. As close as we are to EBITDA positive, as strong as our balance sheet is, a couple of years of heavy growth are going to do wonders for our business.
In terms of the competitive landscape, who are the top two guys that you constantly see bidding against you?
We really, well, I guess the top one is the local utility, right? I mean, so that's our biggest challenge is the local utility. If a lot of times they'll try to come in when we are developing a project with a customer and they'll, artificially lower the utility rates for 3 years to try to, mute or slow down or stop our project, which is very frustrating to me, where if you've been overcharging a customer for, 50 years, then you come in only when there's a competitor and then lower the price. But people, nobody ever got fired buying power from the local utility. Maybe they should. But today they're not. And so that's probably our biggest competitor. Oil and gas, a lot of people still, Caterpillar's all over the oil patch. So they're definitely a competitor. But again, different technology, internal combustion engines, diesel or natural gas, but, pistons, belts, hoses, lots of maintenance, oil, antifreeze. It's just a completely different animal. So our biggest challenge, really, our biggest competitor is, I'd say, the utility, and then lack of knowledge. I mean, because we're kind of the only microturbine manufacturer in the world of any scale, we're kind of like a one pastor church, and it's really hard to fill the church when you only have one pastor in one church. And so for us, we find any way we can to get the brand out there, which is why we do so many non-deal road shows, why we sponsor an IndyCar, why we do so much on our social media networks, and we'll do anything, skywriting, billboards, whatever it takes to try to get the message out, because we're very much in a missionary phase, trying to educate people on what our product is, what our company is, and how we're going to relationship build with our customers, right? Again, if I sign a 20-year all-inclusive lifecycle guarantee, I care about you, right? Because my cost of goods in year 19 depends on how well your site performs and our machinery operates at that site. So we're a little different than the guys who just show up, do a project for you and you never see them again. And so we're definitely relationship selling, looking for long-term partners.
Well, look, as you know, I've been doing this for far too long, but I think you have the winner. The worst competitor to have is a local monopoly.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. No, if you think about, who's the most, creative and if you think about if you got a kid in college and you say, hey, where should you intern? Nobody ever said the local utility, right? That's probably the last place you want your kid to go intern to figure out about business and how to take care of customers. Most of our customers don't even know who their utility rep is. It's not like somebody who's taking them golfing or taking them to the basketball game.
So let's keep this fun. We have a very wealthy patron who lives in a very large house. He said,
Yes,
"Have you ever had a turbine installation for someone's private home?"
we
And
have.
it's not a market that you guys are going to attack.
Yeah, the only place we tend to do that is folks that are living kind of off grid up in Alaska or Canada. We have a couple rock stars in California, but it's pretty rare. Our machines, our smallest machine is 30 kilowatts, which is usually about 10 times what you need for your normal home.
Right.
The biggest challenge is thermal energy. So unless you want an Olympic-sized hot tub, there's not a lot of good use for the thermal energy. And so, but we do it. We've looked at going down in scale. We get that question a lot. The reality is, because we use high grade stainless steels, I call it unobtainium, but because of the architecture of our machine and the fact that the power electronics and the controls don't really scale down very well from a cost standpoint, we're better off going bigger, not smaller.
Understood. And just, for future reference, if Shrax goes to 50 and I buy a house in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, you better believe I'm going to make that call to CPSD.
We will do it. We will set you up. We'll give you solar. We'll give you some battery storage. We'll give you a microturbine. You never have to pay a penny for utility again. And again, you can have as many folks in your hot tub as you want, because you can make it as big as you want.
Understood. What is the company doing to get brand awareness?
So I mentioned before, we do a lot of things. This is one of them. We sponsor an IndyCar about a third of the season. We've been doing it for the last couple of years. We've actually won a couple of races. Actually, we won in Laguna Seca, which is great to win in our home state of California. But around that, we do Energy Zoomer and Boomer, giveaways and quizzes. We've got separate pages. We do a ton on our social media channels. Obviously, we do B2B events. We sponsor stuff with our customers. We'll be doing a big luncheon for Mohawk Carpet and Tile around the Nashville race. We'll bring our driver out and the Andretti Autosport team out and basically give back to one of our biggest clients. DHL, you see, is on the car. They've got an installation with us in New York. Firestone, which is the tires on the car, has got an installation. So we're looking to deepen those relationships. Honda is the engine in the car, and we're having some conversations with them. So a lot of this is, networking, brand building, and then any way we can to get a hold of customers. And so architects and engineers are important to us. Gas companies are very important to us. If you look at like Philadelphia Gas Works in Philadelphia, you go into their headquarters, you'll see a flat screen on the wall, and it shows you the energy savings and the carbon savings from the Capstone microturbine they have out back. And so just like that, it's old-fashioned, unfortunately, missionary work, but I think it really starts to steamroll. If you look at what we've done on our social media platforms over the last 12 months, and it's exponential, the growth we've had, and I think it'll keep going. I'm out there doing the Big Biz show. I'm doing anything I can to get my face and the Capstone name out in front of folks. So whether it's media, whether it's printed media, whether it's stuff on YouTube, blogs, whatever it takes. So that's probably our biggest challenge, frankly. I mean, it's everybody knows who Caterpillar is. Everybody knows who most of the big fuel cell companies are, because there's more than one of them. You can name probably the top of your list, 5 fuel cell companies, maybe 10 if you're in the industry. Wind, solar, all these folks have a whole consortium of people out there telling the story. Unfortunately, we're one company telling the story, so we got to find creative ways to tell it. But I think it gets easier. I think more and more people are hearing about us, and as we continue to grow our message and our project list, that's the biggest thing. Is when I say, "Oh, you're in New York, okay, well, how about One Vanderbilt? You know where that is? Well, that's got Capstones. Yeah, Hudson Yards, you know that? Okay, that's got Capstones. Yeah, the hospital. Yep, there you go. Bronx Zoo, sure. How about the Palace Hotel? That's been a site for almost 7 years now. So we're getting there, but it's definitely difficult in the beginning to get the ball rolling.
2 questions on this. In terms of coverage, in terms of brand awareness, Disneyland, in my opinion, is number 1. if you can do anything related to Disney resorts, you usually have a kind of a large halo effect. And then the second thing is that, do you actually get to pick the number of your race car, or someone designates that for you?
That is designated by IndyCar. There's only so many cars and they're designated numbers. So absolutely. So this year we were 88 last year with Colton Herta, which was the youngest IndyCar winner in history. He won his first race at 19 years old. Couldn't have champagne on the podium. Had to drink apple cider. We had Colton for 2 years, and then unfortunately Gamebridge came in and wrote a check that we would never consider writing. But he was great for us. And again, being a California kid, it was nice. But we've got a guy named James Hinchcliffe now, who's the mayor of Hinchtown, they call him. More of a veteran, not such an up-and-coming guy, but really great brand ambassador, huge social media following. He came in second on Dancing with the Stars. He's been on Ellen. I mean, made the talk show circuit. He's done some broadcasting as well. So I think from a brand ambassador standpoint, he's going to do much, much better for us in getting the name out there. He may not be as competitive on the track as Colton was, but definitely he's going to help spread the word. Very articulate guy and very interesting background. Almost killed at the 500 in qualifying a few years back. And then, 22 quarts of blood later, and a year later, he came back and won the pole at the 500.
Let me tell you, he has more courage than Colton for going on Dancing with the Stars. I'll tell you that.
Absolutely. Coming in second. Yeah. And married to a Canadian actress who's a beautiful and talented woman. And so he's a character, but besides being Canadian, we love him.
I have good news and bad news. The good news is that we still have 20 questions remaining.
Oh my goodness.
I just want to apologize to all those people who are giving me questions. I will see if I can answer them offline, and I apologize. That was the good news. The bad news is we have about 9 minutes, so let's kind of do this as rapid fire Indy as we can. Let's see. Okay, very quickly, Darren. Did Capstone benefit from the deep freeze earlier in the year, primarily in the South?
Yeah, I think the answer is, our project cycles are about 13 months. So from a inbound inquiry to getting a PO to installing the units, about 13 months. And so obviously it hasn't been 13 months since the deep freeze, but we definitely have seen a inbound increase of opportunities. And I think we definitely will benefit from it, from both the deep freeze in the South, as well as the fires we've had the last couple of years here in California and in hurricanes in the Caribbean. Our Caribbean business is growing very, very nicely. And I think that's going to grow exponentially. We had very little in the Caribbean 2 years ago, and because of the hurricanes, we're popping up all over the place. In fact, I think we have a microturbine installation in every country in the Caribbean.
Brian asks, how do linear generators compare to microturbines when applied in a utility, charging station, and microgrid environment?
We haven't really competed with them much, so I won't speak out of turn. I think, we've done some charging station work. There's more that we can do. The company was actually founded on an automotive platform years ago. And so our whole concept was battery charging. So for us, it's kind of back to the future to look at charging stations. We're going to be very good in charging stations where utilities don't have the capacity, where you have access to natural gas, or if it's off-grid charging stations or remote charging stations, we can run on propane or butane. And that's going to be helpful for us, or even diesel or biodiesel. Most people don't realize our diesel and biodiesel emissions are very similar to our natural gas emissions. We can actually burn those fuels very cleanly. So I think that I welcome any competitor that doesn't have absurd government funding. We'll take them on head to head any day. In fact, I would love to strip away the fuel cell tax credits, and we'll give our tax credits up, and we'll go head to head with them any day, because the government giving larger subsidies to certain technologies is really playing favorites.
EC asks, why don't you sell your electric vehicle charging station prototype to all existing 10,000 units in the field?
Not so. We basically would be putting charging stations at plastic companies, and a lot of our customers are industrial companies, they're oil and gas companies, they're not commercial facing properties. I mentioned before, we don't do great in box stores. We don't have a lot of heating and cooling, but just electrical loads, or if they're not open 24 hours a day. So there's a lot of our customers are, I call them kind of energy dense customers. So they're more industrial or open 24 hours a day. They're not so much consumer side. So it's not necessarily the best fit. But again, we're always flexible. We're always looking for the best way to partner up with people and find the right solutions. And again, you know, if you look at some of the other competitors in our space, especially the fuel cell companies, you know, they give customers shares of stock to buy their product. We haven't taken that approach. We've taken an approach of trying to be profitable, build a balance sheet. If you look at our market cap versus revenue compared to any of those guys, you know, we're stellar, much more affordable than those folks.
Have you guys disclosed any partnerships on the charging station side?
We have not. We've got several partnerships in the works, and so we've been looking for partnerships and any M&A activity over the last, you know, call it 18 months. We'll start announcing some of those here soon. I won't say more than that, but definitely stay tuned and keep following the story, because you're going to see some changes in our business going forward, and definitely more partners.
Can you give us some color in terms of joint ventures for this year?
Same answer. Yeah, we definitely have some joint ventures we're working on. You know, I prefer to kind of roll them out in a little bit more in mass than one at a time, because I think, you know, I'll just leave it at that. Again, keep following the story. We'll come out with some exciting news here in the next several quarters.
Awesome. Let me take a look, because there's a couple of more. Can you talk a little bit about the hydrogen dynamic and how you plan on benefiting from this?
Yeah, I think for us, hydrogen is very interesting. We can operate on hydrogen in a blend easier than 100% hydrogen. 100% hydrogen creates some you know, difficulties just because of the size of the molecule leaking and some changes you have to make to our package. Hydrogen embrittlement, we're not too much worried about, but you know, hydrogen, you know, flame speed is very different than other fuels, so we got to manage, you know, backflash and those kind of things, or flashback. So I think that for us, it's a, you know, controlled approach. We could develop hydrogen faster by spending more R&D dollars, but our goal is to get profitable and generate cash as quickly as possible. So we're kind of modulating our R&D efforts and then, you know, monitoring the hydrogen business. I think that, you know, our goal is to increase our blend this year and then move more aggressively toward 100% hydrogen starting next year. That can change either quicker or slower depending on what we see develop in the market. And so, you know, to have a 100% hydrogen product and nobody, you know, capable of having 100% hydrogen delivered to their site doesn't make any sense. And so I know shareholders may want that, but that doesn't make sense from an R&D spend. And so we're really looking at how fast hydrogen gets introduced. Now we're hearing about hydrogen almost globally. If they start putting it in the natural gas pipelines, that would be excellent for us, because that would be a blend and that would fit very perfectly. If customers have the ability to generate on-site hydrogen within their own fence, then that's something we'll look at. And so I think we're really letting customers in the market drive how quickly we spend money in R&D and develop the hydrogen program. So I think it's a fiscally smart approach. Easy to spend money and develop quicker, but no sense to be too early in the market, but we certainly do not want to be too late. So it is a standing board topic. Every quarter we review it with the board, review it with our team, and we will spend more or less depending on how quickly the market develops. And so getting to 100% hydrogen, we're very confident we can do it. We have an injector that we patented a couple of years ago. We'll do more testing with that injector. Like I said, we're running up to 70% hydrogen natural gas blend right now at Argonne National Labs in Illinois. So we can do it. It's just how much we spend and how quickly we need to do it.
So you know that the state of California is really behind this hydrogen push. I think that's a huge advantage to you guys, given the fact that it is local, and we'll be able to kind of, you know, test out the early results, you know, without traveling too far.
Correct. And, you know, I want to see the price of hydrogen come down, especially green hydrogen, because to me, that's key. Now, and I'm sure the infrastructure bill for Biden is going to have a lot of hydrogen dollars in there. But I feel much better if the economics were also there. And I think, like the early days of solar, I think some companies will just do it because they want to do it and they think it's the right thing to do, even if the economics aren't great. So I do think there's a lot of energy, no pun intended, behind moving hydrogen forward and moving it forward quickly.
So last question is my own question. And, you know, I've been very close with you, with Kim, with Eric over the years. So I kind of have the courage to ask it. In the microcap dynamic, there's been quite a few companies that have basically captured lightning in a bottle, you know, for the segments that they're in, for a press release, for a joint venture, et cetera. Why is there such a huge disconnect between some of the other players in clean tech in terms of the valuations that they're receiving versus Capstone Turbine? What do you think the root cause of that is?
Yeah, I think some of it is, the effect of Robinhood and some of the retail folks that buy stocks without looking at market cap and maybe they're better for story stock. And so, I think some of it is, it's certainly not, EBITDA performance or bottom line performance. I think some of it's revenue growth or end customer base. If you can say your customer's Walmart, that excites people. And so I think that there's definitely a balance there. I think we're looking for long-term shareholder growth, not near-term, spikes in our share price. And so we went from $1 to $15. That's great. We're at $8 today. We're going to be as exciting as we can be. We're going to be a story stock as much as we can be, but not at the expense of being profitable, right? And I think Capstone's been around for over 20 years and has never turned into a profitable year. And so I think it's time. And so maybe we're the tortoise in the hare race. But I'm comfortable with where we're at. I want to build a balance sheet. I want to build a company that's profitable. I want to build recurring revenue. We'll get more exciting customers. We'll see bigger growth years. But I think at the end of the day, fast forward several years, I think a lot of those companies that caught lightning in the bottle will come down to earth when they realize that, oh my God, the market cap is billions of dollars and they're never going to be profitable and they're burning cash every quarter. And here comes another dilutive equity deal. And oh, by the way, the market's cooled on clean tech, and it's a convert that's basically a death spiral. So we'll see. Every CEO has their own approach. My approach is maybe a little more conservative than some of the other clean tech CEOs, but I believe you take profit to the bank at the end of the day, not revenue to the bank.
I think you guys have the right methodology, especially when especially when you have this environment where people are just spending without recourse. So for everyone tuning in, where can people find out more information? CapstoneTurbine.com?
CapstoneTurbine.com. And then as you see here, all of our social media channels, please follow us on Twitter, on LinkedIn. We're putting stuff in YouTube. There's all sorts of videos. Our website's got a bunch of information. But yeah, we're continually putting out, press releases, case studies. Our case studies talk about money saved and carbon saved. We talk about how much we do every year. Facebook. So there's a lot out there if you want to do a little homework. And if you don't want to do homework, then get a hold of us, talk to Kim. We can send you kind of quarterly company updates and make your research job a little easier for you. But we're hiding in plain sight. So like I said, come follow us. And if you don't want to own the stock today, great. Put us on the watch list and just watch us the next couple of years because there's a lot of great things about to happen.
Respect. And if you're lazy, you can also go to ldmicro.com and type in CPST, where Capstone has a very nice profile where you can get more information. Darren, thanks. Oh, go ahead, please.
No, I was going to say excellent. Thank you, Chris.
Oh, no, thank you for your time. And look, I will see you on the other side.
Perfect. Always a pleasure.
Bye-bye.